We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph in Mesches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 7a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara was discussing what the pasuk means when it says Ad Melos Hayamim by Nazir. One suggestion was that the pasuk is referring to a month because a month is a time period of days that sometimes needs to be filled, meaning to say a month is 29 and a half days, and sometimes it is filled to 30 days. So we're referring to a chodesh. And the Gemara now says, Ve'em Hashana. Why don't we say that it's referring to a year? A year also is filled, as Rashi over here says, Ve'em Hashana, Shetzricha Lamalos, Tepamim Yeh Shin Nun Gimel, Upamim Shin Nun Dalet, Upamim Shin Nun Hey. Sometimes it's 353 days, sometimes 354, sometimes 355. So maybe it refers to a Shana and not a chodesh. And the Gemara says, no, Mimo Ninon Liyomi. When it comes to a year, we don't count a year by days. We count a year according to the number of months. V'harabbanan de Kesari Amri, because the Rabbanan of Kesari, they say, Minayin shein monen yomim l'shanim. How do we know that we don't count days when we're counting towards a year? Shenemar, like the pasuk says, l'chodshei hashana. It says to the months of the year. Chodashim echashvin l'shanim v'lo yomim l'shanim. We count a year according to the months. We do not count it according to the days. Therefore, the only time period which is sometimes filled, so to speak, and counted according to days is the time period of a month. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Amar Hareini Nazir Achas Gedola, Hareini Nazir Achas Ketana. Let's say a person says, I am a Nazir for a long term, or he says, I am a Nazir for one short term. Afilu Mikan Viat Sofa Olam, even if he says from now until the end of the world, with all of these expressions, Nazir Shloshim Yom, he's a Nazir for 30 days. And the Gemara says, Amai, why is this the case? But he said from now until the end of the world. It certainly sounds like it is longer than 30 days. And the Gemara says, no, Hachi Kamar, this is what he means to say by that expression. This term of being a Nazir for 30 days, it feels to me as long as from here until the end of the world. And the Gemara continues, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hareini Nazir Mikan ad Makom Ploni. It says, let's say a person says, I am a Nazir from here until a particular place. So, Omdim Kama Yomim Mikan Viad Makom Ploni, we evaluate how many days does it take to get from here to that particular place. Pachos Mishloshim Yom. Now, if it takes less than 30 days, so Nazir Shloshim Yom, so then he's a Nazir for 30 days. That's the minimum term for the Nazirus. V'imlav, but if not, let's say it takes more than 30 days, so Nazir Kaminyan Hayamim. So then he's a Nazir according to the number of days it takes to get to that particular place. And so the Gemara asks, why don't we say the same thing in this mission over here also? We should say that what he means to say is this term of Nazirus is as long to me as going from here to a particular place. Just like we say in our Mishnah, Mikan Viat Sofa Olam is just an expression that indicates how long the time period feels for him. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava says, Shehechzik b'derech. The case over here is, when he says from here to a particular place, he's actually on the road, he's traveling, so it's clear that that's what he means. But the Gemara says, V'lihave kol parso parsa. Why are we calculating by the number of days it takes to get from here to over to that particular place? We should count the number of parsos that he's traveling from here to the particular place, and each parsa should be a separate term of Nazirus. And the Gemara says, Amar Rapapa says, Biasra delo mani parsi. We're talking about in a place where they don't count their travels based on the number of parsas. But the Gemara says, V'lahave kol avna ve'avna. Why don't we count every single station where he stops? That should be independent. And for each one of those, it should be considered to be a term of Nazirus. And the Gemara says, Milo Tanan, did we not learn in the Mishnah? Hareini Nazir ka'afar ha'aretz. Let's say a person says that I'm a Nazir like the dust of the earth, u'chesar roshi, or like the hair on my head, u'chechol hayam, or like the sand by the sea. So Harezen Nazir Olam. In all of these cases, he's considered to be a Nazir forever. Umegaleach echad l'shloshim yom. And he shaves once every 30 days, meaning each sand of the sea, so to speak, is going to be considered like one term of Nazirus. So he has an infinite number of terms of Nazirus, and every 30 days he's going to shave. And the Gemara answers, Kol milsa de ispe kitsusa lo katani. We don't say that when you have something which is a fixed amount. And the Gemara supports this. V'atanya, as we learned in a Braisa, Hareini Nazir kol yimei chayai, Hareini Nazir olam. If a person says, I'm a Nazir my whole life, or if a person says, I'm a permanent Nazir, Harezen Nazir olam, then he's considered a permanent Nazir. However, afilu me'ashanim, afilu elef shanim. But if he says I'm a nazir even 100 years, even 1,000 years, meaning it's a milsa de isbe kitzutza, he says a set number, even if that number is much longer than his lifetime. So in that case, ein ze nazir olam, he's not considered a permanent nazir, el nazir li olam. Rather, he's considered a nazir forever, meaning to say it's not considered a 30-day nazirus, one right after the other. In such a case, it's not a bunch of terms of nazirus that follow each other. Rather, it's a nazir li olam. It's considered one long term of Nazirus. And the Gemara continues, Rabba Omar Rabba says, Shani Saros, it's different by the case of the hair. When a person says, I'm a Nazir like the hairs on my head, Hoel umuvdalos zumizu. In that case, so each hair is separate. So what he's saying is, for every hair on his head, it's going to be a separate 30-day Nazirus, and he does one Nazirus after another, each one being 30 days. And that's not the case when we're talking about a situation when a person says, I'm a Nazir, like the amount of time it takes to go from here to a particular place. But the Gemara says, what do you mean? Gabe yome nami, by days also. If it takes a certain number of days to get to the place. So haksib, but the pasuk says, Vayerev vayivoker. Yom echad, it says it's evening and it's morning one day, and it seems to be they're considered separate units from one another. And the Gemara says, no, hasam lav demifsaki mehadadihu. Over there, it's not that they're actually separate units, they run one right into the other. Maika Amra, what does it mean? Yemama v'leil yechad yomu. Really? A day and a night, it's all really one day. Uliolam lo mifsaki mehadadi. They're really, again, they're not really separated from one another. And Rashi explains, Hasam over there, Dechsiv Kro Yom Echad, where the pasuk says one day, Lav Mishum de Mifsuku Mehadadi. It doesn't mean to say that they're separated from one another, meaning to say each day is separate. Elahai de Kamar Shul Yom Echad, all it means when it says it's one day, de Kaimalon de Leil Yaviyamam Echad, who the point is that the night and the day, it's all really one. Shalayla Holeches Achar Yom, the night follows the day. Uliolam Lo Mifsiki Mehadadi, but they're really not considered separate units from one another. Therefore, you don't say, like we suggested, that it means to say that for every day of the travel it's considered a separate term of Nazirus. Rather, it's just one long Nazirus, the amount of time it takes from here to that particular place. And the Gemara continues, Rava Amar Rava says, Lama loch akshuye kuli hai. Why do you have to ask so many questions on our Mishnah? Meaning to say, in our Mishnah, when he says, like, I'm going to be a Nazir from here until the end of the world, it's obvious in our Mishnah that it's just one 30-day Nazirus. Shani Hasam, because it's different over there. Dakatani hareini Nazir achas, because the Mishnah also uses the phrase, I am a Nazir achas, means to say one Nazirus, just one term. You can't compare it to the other cases that the Gemara brought. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hareini Nazir v'yom echad. If a person says, I am a Nazir and one day, Hareini Nazir v'shah achas, or let's say he says, I am a Nazir in 1 hour, Hareini Nazir achas u'mechza, I am a Nazir 1.5. In all of these cases, says the Mishnah, Hareza Nazir shtayim, he's considered a Nazir for 2 terms. That's 2 terms of 30 days each. And the Gemara says, Lamali lamisna kalhani, what do we need all these cases in the Mishnah for? And the Gemara says, Shrichi, we need them all. D'itana hareini nazir v'yom echad, because if it just said the case of I am a Nazir and one day, so hacho damrino nei naziris liyom echad. So here we say, there's no such thing as naziris for one day. Amtu lahachi kamani tartin. That's the reason why he has to count 2 terms of nazirus. Aval hareini nazir v'shah achas. But if a person says I'm a Nazir in 1 hour, so limni lamed v'yechad yom, let him count 1 term of 31 days. So kamash malon, so that's what the Mishnah teaches. In this case as well, it's going to be 2 terms of Nazirus, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Zayin Amud Beis.